So, you want to learn Chinese but you don't know where to begin? Well, let me give you a little guide to help you. Hello everyone and welcome back to a new video. Today I will be sharing with you a general plan for studying Chinese. But please keep in mind that this plan and general guide is only based off of my own personal experience and opinion, and I am in no way a professional Chinese teacher, so just keep that in mind. So first is vocabulary. Chinese characters, the majority of them, probably like 90%, are pictograms or a combination of pictograms. And pictograms is basically like a symbol. So like each Chinese character is pretty much different from all the rest. So learning new vocabulary is one of the most important things for beginners. And for Chinese that is used in everyday life, there's only actually about like 750 words that are used every day. But like personally, I think it's not even 750. It's probably like only half of them. And those half you like constantly use and you constantly repeat. So like 750 is just like the average. Normally we use like probably less than that. So don't be afraid about like, oh, I have to recite like tens of thousands of Chinese characters. You don't really have to do that. Like I don't even think I know tens of thousands of Chinese characters. Like I don't even think I know like more than 2,000. I don't even think I know that much. My parents don't even know that much, all right? So like, don't be scared. If you just want to have like a normal conversation with someone, 750 is like the average. If you know 750 of those common words, you're fine, you're all set. So in theory, if you learn 10 new vocabulary a day for 6 days a week, you gotta get one break day in the week, and you do this for 3 months, you would be, in theory, you would be able to hold a normal conversation. And to be honest, just thinking about that isn't quite hard, just 10 new vocabulary every single day. But like apart from vocabulary that you review every single day, you also learn like grammar and like other stuff, like sentence structure and blah, 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 blah. You just combine everything together and technically, within 3 months, you can hold a normal conversation. Next are the meanings of Chinese characters. Chinese characters, like I said, are pictograms or a combination of pictograms. So if you just know and learn the basic characters or like the basic pictograms, you can basically guess the meaning of a word without even learning the pronunciation. That's just how easy it is. And sometimes the meaning of Chinese characters, they can be very abstract. Like a lot of Chinese characters, the meaning behind them, you can't really translate it in English or other languages, especially English actually. Like the word xiang, for example. In English, it can be translated to really good smelling or like really savory. But like, yeah, you can say it's savory, or like, oh yeah, you can say it's delicious, but like that's not really what the word refers to. So in order to really get the meaning behind some of these words, you have to experience it yourself. Like the word xiang I was talking about. Maybe you go to a restaurant with like a Chinese friend, and then you eat something, and then the Chinese friend is like, oh yeah, this is really xiang, this dish is really xiang. And then you experience, oh, so this type of feeling or like this type of flavor is xiang. Oh, so that's what it means. It's like a lot of Chinese characters, like the meaning behind them are very abstract. You can't directly translate a lot of them. So just be prepared to like keep that in mind. Like don't think that, okay, the meaning of this word is like delicious. Okay, so it must be delicious. No, you just have to keep an open mind. Or like Chinese character meanings. You just have to keep an open mind. Especially when you get to like higher levels of Chinese, especially to like ancient Chinese or like poetry, that's when everything becomes really abstract. Well, not super abstract to the point where you don't even know what it's talking about, but like the meanings behind the words are a lot looser and a lot more flexible. And like I said, Chinese characters, there are a bunch of pictograms and combination of pictograms. And so like, for example, the word ko, it's just like a square, right? And this is the word for mouth. And when you use the word ko inside a combination of pictograms, when it's on the left side of the character, like this word, he, you can tell immediately that this word would have something to do with the mouth. And this goes on for other radicals as well, or like other combination of pictograms. Usually if something is on the left side of the character, that's basically like the category of the word, or like what is this word related to. Like if the ko is next to he, as the left radical, it has something to do with the mouth. And he really means to drink. Or like the word chi, there's another mouth on the side of it, and it means to eat. And then this goes on for like a lot of other simple and basic pictograms, like the word mu. And maybe you can tell, or maybe you can't tell, but like this is the word for wood or tree. Especially if you look at like ancient Chinese writing, then you can really tell what the word is. Like, people have simplified a lot of the words nowadays and they look different from before. Like this word is for wood. And then when you use it as a left radical, for example, lin, like this word, double wood, where do we see like double wood? In a forest, you see a lot of trees. So lin means forest. Or like sen, that also means forest. 3 trees, wow, a lot of trees. I wonder where. Obviously it means forest. And then for ren, this is human or person. Now be careful. Some words like ren, when it's used in a radical or the left side of a character, or like any side of the character really, some of them will change their shape. Like this word, men. Believe it or not, the radical for this is actually ren. It's on the side. As you can tell, it changes the shape a bit. And so for men, it really is used as a plural for people. Like ta men is like them or they. But then if you take off the men, it just becomes ta, and it's just like him or his. And then for ta as well, it has like the human left radical to it. So it's referring to a person. And this one, it refers to a man or a boy or a male. And as for learning the pronunciations of Chinese characters, there is an alphabet for Chinese characters. It teaches you the basic pronunciation for the sounds like xi, ci, ang, like the basic vowels and stuff. I find it actually pretty helpful for beginners. It helps you like practice and helps you pronounce like the correct vowels needed for the words. And apart from the pronunciation, there's pinyin. Now pinyin is really helpful at the beginning. It's there to help you find the correct pronunciation of the word. But here's the thing about pinyin. Don't rely too much on pinyin. I find that some beginners, they rely way too much on pinyin. Like for if there's like a sentence and then they put pinyin on top of the sentence, they just focus on reading the pinyin rather than reading the actual words. Pinyin is there to help guide you to the correct pronunciation. It isn't there to replace the actual characters. So just like keep that in mind when you're learning new vocabulary. And as for the tones, I think a lot of people have trouble with the tones. There isn't really a shortcut to learning tones. You just have to keep practicing it. Like if you learn a new word, for example, and the word is chi, it's the first tone, chi, it's flat. You can pronounce it with other tones as well, chi, 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 and sort of get used to those 4 tones with different pronunciations. And I find that actually really helpful when I first learned Mandarin as well. If I learn a new word like chi, I repeat the same pronunciation with all the 4 tones. Chi, chi. And I find it really helpful because it gets your mind and your mouth like familiar with the different tones of the word. And I find that hand motion kind of helps as well, but really it's just the mind, like the first tone is flat, so you just gotta think, oh, flat, and then like the second one, you gotta go upward, so then you just go up, and then the third one you go down and then up, and the last one you just go down. And there's actually a fifth one, but like that one is just blank, there's no tone to it, so we normally don't even care about the fifth tone, just pretend it's not even there. So after Chinese characters, there is Chinese grammar. Now, if you're an English speaker, you're in luck, because Chinese also follows the rule of subject, then verb, then the object. Like, I go shopping, 我去逛街, or I'm eating noodles, 我在吃面. It follows the subject and then the verb and then the object. Now, if you already know this rule, then Chinese is going to be a lot easier for you. But then if you come from like Japanese or like Korean, where they put subject and then object and then the verb, then you might have a bit of trouble adjusting. But if you come from English, you should be like pretty familiar with this rule. But for beginners, I don't recommend digging too much into Chinese grammar as a beginner, because there is another smarter way to learn grammar, which I will talk about in just a moment. Like, of course, learning the grammar rule is perfectly fine. Just don't dig into it too much. Don't be like, okay, the rule is like this and this and this. But like, you only learn the rule. You don't know how to like put it into action. So for beginners, don't focus too much on grammar just yet. And apart from learning vocabulary, I suggest you learn some of the basic phrases like, 你好, or like how to say your name, like 我叫 what, your name, or like 早上好, 晚上好, 再见, or like 下次见. Like, these common phrases is actually very helpful. Like, not only do they contain like the common words that you use in everyday life, but like these phrases are very common, especially if you want to have like a conversation with another person. It's also really helpful. And it also helps you adjust to like sort of the abstraction of Chinese language. Like, for example, 你好. It really just means you good? You good? But then like in English, if you actually translate it, it means like, how are you doing? It's just two words, you good? You good? And it just turns into a greeting. So like, there's like a little bit of abstract to Chinese language that you just have to like stay open-minded and just like relax, all right? Chinese characters are flexible. After you learn Chinese vocabulary and some common phrases, I really recommend you to go read a children's book in Chinese. And if you can find one with audio, that would be even better. Because one, it helps you with new vocabulary, because you're obviously gonna run into different like new words. And then two, it helps you with grammar, because through actual reading does your brain get used to this grammar, or like different sentences and different sentence structures. Just learning the rule isn't really enough. You have to read it in action. And when you're reading the children's book, I highly recommend you to actually pronounce the words out loud, because just reading it with your head and not saying anything is very different when you actually say it. So you gotta like link up your brain to your mouth. You have to say it. And don't worry if you get like pronunciations wrong in the beginning. Like, everyone does, okay, when they're learning new language. Everyone does. But like, through constant practice, that link between your brain and your mouth will get stronger, and your pronunciation will get better over time. I promise. That's how it works. And obviously, if it has audio to it, it also practices your listening skills. Just close the book and listen to the audio and try to understand what they're saying. Like when like the audiobook is speaking, just think in your mind, okay, it's that word, that word, that word. They're saying this sentence and that sentence means blah, 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 blah. And once you finish your first children's book, move on to the next one at a similar level, a children's book. And once you get familiar with the second story, you can read it okay, you can read it fluently and you understand each word, move on to the next. And you repeat until the books at that children's level is already easy for you. Like you pick up a new book, okay, maybe there might be a new vocabulary word for you, but that's fine. If you can read it pretty fluently and understand it, that's great. Move on to the next level. And then you just repeat the same thing that you did for a children's book. And then just like that, you finish that level, you move on to the next level, and then you challenge yourself to even higher ones. And that will be the main route for your advancement in Chinese without a teacher. Because without a teacher, you yourself become the teacher, or like the book, they become the teacher. So you have to rely on yourself and like rely on other materials to help you without a teacher. And after reading, this part is very, very important. You have to find yourself someone who can speak Chinese. There's many apps out there that just like pairs you up with a random person that knows that language, and you just talk to them. Like whether you're texting or speaking to them through like a phone call or something, just talk to them in Chinese, because it puts what you learned into action. And it trains your brain to think in Chinese. And it also trains your listening skills and your speaking skills and your understanding of Chinese as well. So it's really, really helpful. And this is the place where you improve a lot. If you really can't find anyone, you can check out my Discord server down in the description below. There might be some people on my Discord server who are comfortable with talking to you in Chinese. And obviously in the beginning, you're probably like, I'm way too shy to actually speak in Chinese. So like just type it out first, do it with text or typing. But I would recommend you, when you're typing out the sentences, I really recommend you to just say it out loud while you type it. That way you also like process it through your mind and through your mouth, through your speaking. And then once you get a bit more comfortable, then actually like talk to them with your voice. Like even though you might find it uncomfortable or like embarrassing at first to like speak a new language, I think it's rather brave if you're willing to take that step and like push yourself to learn the language. As children, we learn a new language. We learn our mother language by listening and speaking. That's how children learn. They don't learn by reading, they learn by listening and speaking. The same goes for learning a new language. The most important part is actually listening and speaking. So I really highly recommend you to like actually find someone to talk to in the new language. And one very important piece of advice I would give to beginners is to don't be afraid of getting something wrong or making mistakes. Unless you're a language genius, everyone will get something wrong. Everyone will make mistakes. Not because you're not capable of learning a new language, it's because it's a natural process of learning. Like I think even language geniuses, they will struggle with something. Like whether it's pronunciation, writing, speaking, listening, whatever it is, everyone will have like some parts they're bad at and some parts they're good at. It's fine, it's perfectly normal. Just be sure to like learn from those mistakes and move on. That's what's important. So in summary, first comes vocabulary, common phrases, and then reading. And then after reading, really find yourself someone to talk to and put everything into practice. So that is all for today's video. I will be making more videos on learning the Chinese language, but I will get into more specific topics, like how do you write Chinese characters? Or like what is the best way to memorize vocabulary? I will be making more videos, so don't worry. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you like my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. 我们下次见。